a high-stakes diplomatic initiative between the United States and Iran, aimed at reducing escalating tensions and exploring a possible framework for long-term stability, collapsed after intense negotiations in Islamabad failed to resolve deep-rooted disagreements over Iran's nuclear program. Sanctions relief, frozen assets and security arrangements linked to the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy corridors. Notably, the US delegation led by US Vice President JD Vance described the outcome as a breakdown in talks after Washington presented what it called its final and best offer. According to the US officials, Iran refused to accept key conditions, particularly guarantees that would prevent it from advancing towards nuclear weapons capability, a central demand for Washington throughout the negotiations. And the discussions were hosted in Islamabad with involvement from Pakistani leadership, including Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who had positioned the talks as a rare opportunity to de-escalate long-standing regional tensions. Well, initially, the atmosphere around the negotiations carried cautious optimism, with both the sides reportedly exploring a temporary understanding that could ease pressure and open the door to further dialogue. However, as talks progressed, major disagreements quickly resurfaced, particularly over Iran's nuclear enrichment activities, the extent of sanctions relief, and control and security of maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, a strategic choke point vital to the global oil shipments. Following the collapse of negotiations, US President Donald Trump blamed Iran for the failure, stating that Tehran had refused to abandon its nuclear ambitions, despite what he described as a generous and final proposal from Washington. Iranian officials strongly rejected this narrative. Foreign Minister Seyed Abbas Araghchi said that the talks were making progress until external interferences disrupted the process at a critical moment. Araghchi specifically alleged that a phone call from Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to US negotiators during the discussions shifted the entire focus away from US-Iran negotiations and redirected attention towards Israel's strategic concerns, ultimately undermining the momentum of the talks. He argued that Iran had entered the negotiations in good faith after years of hostility, hoping to achieve a meaningful diplomatic breakthrough, but instead encountered shifting demands, hardened positions, and growing pressure from Washington. And as the talks broke down, tensions in the region escalated further, with reports suggesting that military and naval measures, including restrictions on Iranian maritime access, were being considered or initiated by US forces. And the developments immediately triggered concern in global energy markets as fears of disruption through the Strait of Hormuz drove oil prices higher. Brent crude briefly surged above $100 per barrel mark, reflecting renewed instability after a short period of easing tensions during earlier ceasefire discussions. Although neither side has formally declared the ceasefire completely over, the collapse of negotiations has left the situation highly uncertain. And with trust deeply eroded and diplomatic channels strained, analysts warn that without renewed engagement, the fragile pause in hostilities could unravel completely, raising the risk of further escalation in an already volatile region. That's all for now. Stay tuned to the Savera for more updates. Do like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.